changed in your perception of the problems and the solutions in the past year? Has anything in your work led to substantially new perspectives? And I'm going to ask Senator Hayes, because he's been at it so long. Let's start this.
Thank you. Well, one issue that's come to light, I think, over on the House side is they decriminalized some of the ethics law. I think there was an article by, you mentioned Cindy Scott, I think she did an article in the paper a day or two ago on this issue. I think that that's kind of like the issue on the commission versus the committee's issue. Some of that's perception, some of that's reality. The perception is that the House is trying to decriminalize this so that to protect themselves or protect elected officials, et cetera. And there may be some truth in that, but I think, frankly, there's some things that probably, in all probability, no solicitor or attorney general would ever charge somebody with not turning in an ethics report 2 days late. That's probably, as a practical matter, just an offense that may be fined, but fined by the committee or the commission or whatever, but that's not, that could be handled civilly as opposed to criminally. But you mentioned civil as opposed to criminal and ethics in the same term, all of a sudden people think you're trying to water down the law or whatever else. So I think that you've got to be very careful that in dealing with that perception that we, because what I talked about earlier and what the others have talked about are substantive, meaningful, needed changes in the ethics law. Leaving those things as criminal really doesn't really make much difference because as a practical matter, nobody's going to probably bring a criminal charge on a lot of those minor violations anyway, so might as well leave them as criminal so that you don't have the perception that you're taking it easy on elected officials. And I don't hear any movement in the Senate to try to decriminalize things, mainly because it's the perception that they'd be trying to make it easier on elected officials. In reality, I don't think it would change anything particularly, but we've got to be careful. Same thing on the commission versus the committees. As a practical matter, I think the committees have done a pretty good job, and frankly, they do a lot of things that the commission did not have staff to do. Because it's such a few members of the Senate and House. Every ethics report that's turned in is reviewed in detail. I mean, it's audited closely to make sure, and then it's, whereas the commission, they don't have time to do that. They have literally about 20,000 people that they're overseeing now. Every city council, every county council, every school board, every constitutional officer, everybody but the House and Senate come under the commission. And that is, so as a practical matter, by putting everything under the commission, frankly, they don't have the, unless we give them a lot more resources, they don't have the manpower to audit what the committees are currently doing. But the perception is that you got the fox guarding the hen house. You got legislators that are letting other legislators get away with things. They're not sitting in judgment, you know, but I can show you chapter and verse where similar offenses on the commission, similar offenses in the House and Senate were handled the same way. Frankly, the House and Senate have been harder in certain cases. But the perception is that you shouldn't have to sit in judgment of another senator and House member, et cetera. So we have to deal with that perception. That's a very real perception. I was out on the campaign trail this time, you know, last year and things. I can tell you, you can't defend it, and I don't try to defend it. I like to get it under the Ethics Commission just so we don't have to deal with the perception that somehow or another House and Senate members are getting over easier than other people. But we do have the issue of the Constitution, and I don't know as a practical matter if we do have to amend the Constitution that we can get the 2/3 vote in the House and Senate to do that. I know in the Senate we're not going to get a 2/3 vote. So if it's a constitutional issue, we've got to do the best we can do, which would probably be getting the investigative authority under the commission. And it's public. So you've got the Ethics Commission saying that, once they find probable cause, it's a public record. So the public will know that the Ethics Commission thinks that there's been a violation here. And if you have the House and Senate committees that just ignore the Ethics Committee's recommendations, I think it's going to be apparent pretty quickly. And that might make it easier down the line to amend the Constitution if we need to. So those are just some things. I think the perception reality when you're dealing with ethics is extremely important, because as Henry said, people have to have faith in their government. And if the perception is that something's not right there, we need to deal with that.